If you value your sleep, don't book this place. Some hotels are built for rest. This one was built for records of every terrible thing that ever happened inside it. Tonight, we open the file on the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. A building with so many suicides, murders, and disappearances that the city eventually tried to bury it under a new name. Stay on Main. But you can change the sign on the wall. You can't change the walls themselves. From the street, it looks ordinary. 14 stories of old brick, faded sign, a tired lobby. Thousands of people have walked past it without ever looking up. But the people who did look up, who chose to walk through those doors, often found out the hard way. You don't just stay at the Cecil, you get absorbed by it. Let's go back to where it started. The hotel opened in December 1924, in the middle of a boom. Downtown LA was money, neon, theaters, and headlines. Developer William Hanner and his partners poured millions into the building. They imagined traveling salesmen, honeymoon couples, people in fur coats stepping out of taxis. Marble floors, a grand staircase, polished brass. Everything said, "You belong here, you're safe here." That promise didn't last long. The Great Depression hit. The glamorous guests stopped coming. The businesses around the hotel closed, one by one. The center of gravity in Los Angeles moved west, and the Cecil stayed behind, sinking slowly into what would become Skid Row. Instead of honeymooners and executives, the guests became drifters, addicts, the mentally ill, people with nowhere else to go. Inside, the carpets wore down, the wallpaper peeled, and something in the atmosphere shifted. From luxury to desperation. Then the deaths began. The first recorded case was in 1927. A man named Percy Ormond Cook. He tried and failed to reconcile with his wife and son, and checked into the Cecil instead. He shot himself in his room. His note said simply that money couldn't buy happiness. He wasn't the last. In 1931, salesman W.K. Norton checked into his room with a suitcase. When staff finally entered, they found him dead, surrounded by poison capsules. No explanation, no family claiming the body. Through the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, newspapers kept printing the same ugly headline. With a different name underneath, "Woman leaps from hotel window." Man found dead in hotel room. Sometimes they jumped from upper floors. Sometimes they landed on the marquee. Once, in 1962, a woman named Pauline Otten jumped and landed on a man walking below. They both died instantly. By the mid-20th century, people who lived nearby had stopped calling it the Cecil. They called it something else, the suicide. And the truth is, the suicides are just the deaths we can explain. In 1964, a woman known as Pigeon Goldie Osgood, a retired telephone operator who fed the birds in the nearby park every day, was found in her room, raped, beaten, stabbed, her room ransacked. A suspect was arrested, then released. No one was ever convicted. Her friends said she was harmless. Who would do that? The hotel had no answer. As the decades rolled on, the Cecil became notorious for drugs, prostitution, and violence. It was cheap. It was anonymous. If you wanted to disappear for a while, you could do it here. If you wanted to make someone else disappear, that worked too. And then came the killers who checked in. In the mid-1980s, a tall, gaunt man with rotten teeth was living on the top floor of the hotel for about $14 a night. He would slip out after dark and come back before sunrise. Sometimes witnesses said he returned covered in blood and stripped off his clothes in the alley before walking calmly through the lobby. His name was Richard Ramirez. You know him as the Night Stalker, one of the most feared serial killers in American history. While he hunted, he slept at the Cecil. Some locals are convinced he chose the place because it was already soaked in bad energy. It was a building where screams were just one more noise in the night. Not long after, in 1991, another killer chose the same hotel, an Austrian writer named Jack Unterweger. Officially, he was in Los Angeles as a journalist, writing about crime and prostitution on Skid Row. Unofficially, he was hunting. He strangled at least 3 women during that stay, using their own bra straps as ligatures, a signature he had used in Europe before. He could have stayed anywhere. He chose the Cecil. Investigators later wondered, was he imitating Ramirez or responding to something that was already here? Then, in 2013, the hotel gave the world the case that would define it forever. Her name was Elisa Lam. She was a 21-year-old student from Vancouver, Canada, traveling alone through California by bus and train. She arrived at the Cecil, by then partly rebranded as Stay on Main, on January 26, 2013, and checked into a shared room on the 5th floor. At first, she stayed with other young women, but according to hotel staff, her behavior unsettled her roommates. She left notes on their beds saying, "Go home," locked them out of the room, and talked to herself. The hotel eventually moved her to a room of her own. A few days later, she vanished. Police searched the building with dogs. They checked the roof. Nothing. Her parents, back in Canada, begged for answers. Then the LAPD released the elevator video. You've probably seen it. If you haven't, imagine this. An elevator in an old hotel. The doors open. Elisa steps in. She presses several buttons. The elevator doesn't move. She steps out, looks quickly left and right, then jumps back in, like she's hiding from someone. She presses more buttons. She moves her hands strangely, like she's talking to someone just out of frame. Sometimes she looks terrified. Sometimes she looks like she's playing. Then she walks out of the elevator. The doors close, and she is never seen alive again. For 19 days, no one knew where she was. Meanwhile, guests began complaining that the water had a strange taste, that the color was off, that the pressure was low. A maintenance worker went to the roof to check the 4 large water tanks that fed the building. He climbed the ladder, opened the heavy metal hatch, and found Elisa Lam's body floating inside. She was naked. Her clothes were in the tank beside her. There were no signs of trauma, no drugs in her system, no obvious way to explain how she had opened the locked rooftop door, climbed the tank, gotten inside, and then somehow allowed the lid to close above her. The official conclusion, after months of speculation: accidental drowning, with her bipolar disorder listed as a significant factor. Police believe she had a psychotic episode, climbed into the tank on her own, and became trapped as the water level dropped. But for many people, especially those who've watched the elevator footage, that explanation feels incomplete. Why did the elevator behave so strangely? Why was there no camera on her floor? Why this hotel with this history again? Some say the Cecil claimed one more victim. Others say she was simply in the wrong place, with the wrong mind state, at the worst possible time. The building doesn't care either way. It just adds another story to the collection. And then there are the things that no coroner's report can explain. Long-term residents talk about phones ringing in the middle of the night from rooms that have been vacant for years. Housekeepers say they hear footsteps in empty hallways, keys turning in locks that no longer work. One cleaner swears she heard a voice behind her. While she was alone in a room, a man whispering right in her ear, "Don't look." When she spun around, no one was there. Paranormal teams have brought in cameras, recorders, EMF meters. They've captured cold spots in otherwise warm hallways, electromagnetic spikes in certain rooms, and disembodied voices on playback. Simple phrases: "Help me," "Get out," "Why are you here?" Sometimes they say you don't need to see a ghost. You can feel that the building itself is the ghost. In 2011, part of the property was rebranded as Stay on Main, a separate budget hostel with its own reception desk, brighter colors, and younger tourists. But the elevators and plumbing were shared. Guests paying for a clean, modern hostel experience were brushing shoulders in the lift with people who had lived in the building for decades and with the history they brought with them. In 2017, the city of Los Angeles even declared the building a historic cultural monument because of its early 20th century architecture and its significant place in the city's story. Developers promised a huge renovation. There were plans for a rooftop pool, a gym, maybe even luxury units. But the money dried up. The hotel closed again. Today, it's being used as low-income housing, with hundreds of residents trying to rebuild their lives. Inside a building that the world mostly remembers for death, a priest now holds weekly services in the old lobby. For the people who live there, trying to talk about hope and healing in a place built on tragedy. From the outside, the sign may one day change again. The paint may be fresh, the lobby may be redesigned, but walls don't forget, elevators don't forget, and water tanks definitely don't forget. If you ever find yourself downtown, standing on Main Street, you might look up and see it, the old brick, the faded letters, the windows reflecting the afternoon sun. You might tell yourself it's just a building, but then you'll remember the suicides, the murders, the serial killers, the unsolved cases, the girl in the elevator, the body in the tank, and the guests who checked in and never really left. You survived this story, but not the next one. Subscribe while you can. And if you value your sleep, don't book this place.